So, a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, innovators and game changers. I'm Vishwas Sinha, sub editor at Elets Technomedia, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all to another inspiring edition of Elets NBFC Dialogue, our thought leadership series where we engage with India's most influential financial technology leaders who are shaping the future of NBFC and financial ecosystem. At Elets Technomedia, our 22-year journey has been dedicated to showcasing how technology is transforming India's most critical sectors from governance to education to healthcare and especially BFSI. As India's leading B2B multimedia platform, we know that it is our mission to bridge ideas with execution and innovation. And as we gear up for the 21st edition of Elets NBFC 100 Tech Summit, which is scheduled for 21st of November at ITC Maratha, Mumbai. And this special NBFC Dialogue series is a powerful prelude bringing together voices that are redefining finance, technology, and trust in India. And today, we are joined by a visionary leader who is driving global banking technology innovation and helping NBFCs and banks to leverage their technology and scale and enhance efficiency to deliver superior customer experiences. So I would like you to all please join me in welcoming Mr. Rajashekara Maiya, Global Head of Business Consulting at Infosys Finacle. We welcome you, Mr. Maiya.
Thank you, Vishwas. Thanks for the opportunity.
So, in order to brief about Mr. Maiya, he's been responsible for business consulting at Finacle, including pre-sales solution architecture, account mining, and digital offerings. Previously, he had led the product strategy for Finacle Infosys, flagship banking solution, and managing the product roadmaps, strategic acquisition, alliances, and client engagement. Mr. Maiya holds patents in such areas that are partner portals, delivery channels, offline banking, and customer experience. Mr. Maiya is also the co-author of book SMAing the Bank and has completed executive certification from Stanford, Harvard, MIT Solon, and Wharton University, along with an AI fundamental certificate from IBM SkillBuild. So it's really an honor to have him today with us for this special edition of Elets NBFC Dialogue. So thank you once again, Mr. Maiya, for joining us. And it's really wonderful to have you on board.
Thank you, Vishwas.
All right. So I think now, Mr. Maiya, we can dive into some quick key questions about how, Finacle's vision are approaching towards the NBFCs.
Absolutely.
So, Mr. Maiya, I'm going to kick off with the first question. Finacle is well known in Indian banking industry, if we talk about. So, could you give us a brief overview, like how Finacle's presence and approach in the NBFC segment is being both in India and in global?
Thanks, Vishwas. It's a good question. As you're aware, Infosys Finacle is used by banks over 100 countries across 6 continents. And we do have all segments of banking being served by Finacle. It is not just the banks which are leading globally from a perspective of the asset under management. We range anywhere between $10 billion of asset under management going up to $1 trillion. This includes banks, domestic, international, multinational, the cooperative society, credit unions, community banks, and as well as the non-banking financial institutions globally. In India, we do have a significant presence in non-banking financial corporations. And outside India, we would also have presence in the US, in North Canada, and as well as in South Asia. Just to give you a perspective, in India, we have the largest NBFC in the form of India Post, which has more than 560 million customers, 720 million accounts, almost 200 million transactions, 155,000 branches, and more than 200,000 users. And that is a scale that nowhere else is matched from a perspective of a large NBFC using in a centralized environment the Finacle solution.
Yes, very well said, very well said. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Maiya, for answering this. And so moving forward, Mr. Maiya, I would like to ask, from your perspective, how do you see that relationship between the traditional banks and now if we talk about fintechs are coming into play and between the NBFCs, like how these three major sector of India's BFSI industry are evolving? And what should NBFCs prioritize when it comes to the partnership, versus building an internal capabilities? So, do they need partnerships actually or not?
Interesting question, Vishwas. Globally, I'm not just talking about India alone.
Okay.
Globally, if you ask this question around 6, 7 years ago, we would have mentioned that the NBFCs are trying to compete with the banks and as well as compete on the other side with fintechs. But in the last two,
Yes.
3 years, things have changed. No, it is a collaborative play. It is a combination of banks, NBFCs, and the fintechs coming together with their own strengths and making sure that the overall solution to the customer makes sense. Each one brings their own strengths. NBFCs have their own reach in terms of the specialization and as well as expertise in the area of MSME loans, personal loans, or in terms of car loans or vehicle loans. The banks bring the reach, and of course, the fintechs bring the agility and the market responsiveness that is required, and as well as a comprehensively improved customer experience and the user experience for the entire NBFC segment to leverage on their strength. And we've been seeing this as a global phenomena and not just in India. And from an opportunity perspective, I think in the recent Reserve Bank of India circular, if you have observed, it gives more opportunity for banks and NBFCs to come together from a co-lending perspective. So this opportunity opens beyond the housing loans and brings in the other parts of loans as well from a co-lending perspective, so that both NBFCs and banks, they should be able to leverage this situation and look at having more and more customers from an unbanked, underbanked kind of a serviced environment to a lot more formal banking umbrella. This helps not only the agenda of financial inclusion being fulfilled, but at the same time, it also helps participate in the growth of the economy, where India is looking at becoming the third largest GDP country in the world in next few years.
Exactly. Very, very well said, Mr. Maya. I mean, that is really even actually required now, because if we that you have correctly mentioned prior 6, 7 years back, if we talk about, then these three sectors were working in different segments. They just wanted to be, grown towards the each specific sector. But since they have came together and started doing things in more collaborative way, then we had seen involvement and good development for the India's BFSI sector. That is really very well mentioned.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Maya. And so moving forward, sir, my leading question would be this: to as NBFCs play an increasing pivotal role in India's credit economy. If we talk about credit ecosystem, then NBFCs are basically on the top of it as well. So what are the key strategic levers that leaders must focus, on to stay in competitive side of it while scaling responsibly?
So there are many things the NBFCs really can play, and not just in their own space, but in terms of trying to leverage the following things. The first and foremost is there is a lot of scope for engaging the customer better, and these customers not just restricted to the retail, but it is including the MSMEs, the corporate customers, and as well as if you go to the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, there are a lot of the small and medium enterprise customers who do not have access to the formal banking umbrella. They should be able to leverage this. This is the first one, basically to engage the customer better. The second one is with the available technologies today with respect to the cloud, the mobile, and on top of it, you have the artificial intelligence coming into picture. The bank should be able to now innovate better. I think there's a lot of scope for innovation, and it also goes back to what we discussed around bringing in a more comprehensive collaboration with the startup and the fintech ecosystem. And they will have ideas. They require the scale and the reach and the domain knowledge, which the NBFCs are able to provide. So if we bring in these two things, the technology and the partnership together, there is no limit to innovation. I think that is an important element. The second one, which is basically innovating better. The third one is, of course, with the latest technologies and with the composability coming into picture, the bank should be, along with NBFCs, should be able to now leverage the co-lending space and bring more and more efficiency and thereby help operate better. And this is going to bring in the required margins, net interest margins improvement, so that when you have a more productive workforce, and more seamless way of integrating with the fintechs, and more seamless way of working very closely with the banks on a co-lending perspectives. And that brings in a lot more better cost to income ratio perspective for the banks. And the third one. The fourth one is in looking at transforming better with available technologies. And I think this is what we have seen globally, where anybody who has approached technology in a comprehensive way, they're able to now transform themselves better from a digital perspective. We started the journey with digital first, then we moved to cloud first, then we moved to mobile first. Now we are looking at AI first. So with each of the digital technologies coming into picture, the NBFCs have the opportunities in front of them to leverage them and make sure that they get the best out of it. So the four things that I would like to highlight for the leaders from the NBFC segment to concentrate on: to engage better with the customers and the partner ecosystem, to operate better, to become more productive and reduce the cost to income ratio, to create and innovate better from a perspective of bringing in newer products and much more creative products in the market. And the last one is transform better with the use of technologies and along with the partner ecosystem. So with these four things, NBFC should be able to bring in much more required access, affordability, and as well as the funds to their customers at a much cheaper, much faster, much easier way.
Yes, very well said, Mr. Maya. I mean, you had also mentioned about how the first approach India is opting currently right now, and like digitally, you have really very well mentioned, sir, and about the AI first approach also. So leading to that specific thing, sir, I would like to ask you, like you have mentioned, AI and technology in past few years has really evolved very much, and things like credit have become really very easier for one to get now, not in the urban sector but as well as rural sector as well. So I would just like to know like how digital lending represents a booming opportunity for NBFCs in India, because we are in the digital era right now, and AI is taking the control of it. So what are the critical capabilities that should they develop to turn the data and insights into actionable, right risk mitigated growth?
Thanks, Vishwas. It's a very important question that you asked from the perspective of the technology changes that are taking place, and especially the opportunity for the NBFCs in the area of digital lending. If you now look at, we in India are fortunate enough to have the market infrastructure delivered by the government in the form of digital public infrastructures. And we have seen the phenomenal growth and an exponential growth in one form of that is called as UPI, which is the Unified Payment Interface. And we are today seeing more than 18 billion transactions being clocked every month, which is more than 25% of the global transactions put together. And similarly, India has also given us now ULI, which is the Unified Lending Interface, through which the customer should be able to have access to credit in a much more faster, easier, cheaper way. And this brings in a kind of inclusivity, and as well as for the people who are unbanked and unbanked, who have underbanked, to have access to the credit. So if you now look at in terms of the whole market infrastructure phenomena, is to look at facilitate transactions in a faceless, contactless, paperless, and a cashless environment. And this being the foundation, we have seen in India where banks have gone ahead and implemented with the benefit of eKYC being in place, a customer can be created within less than 180 seconds. And the same facilities are available for the non-banking financial corporations also. And they should be able to onboard customers and also carry out the required eligibility checks, the origination process, underwriting process, all of this being comprehensively automated now. And with the help of AI, you should be able to now look at not just the structured data, but the unstructured data about the customer, and so that you are able to provide a much more holistic view and a rating for the customer from a credit rating and a credit scoring perspective. This helps NBFCs to fast forward their journey in terms of augmenting and amplifying their existing technologies, and thereby onboarding customers in a much more faster and much more cheaper and much more easier way, and thereby providing the comfort and the convenience for the customers with their own devices, whether it's a tablet or a mobile or a browser. They should be able to onboard themselves very easily.
Yes, really very well mentioned, Mr. Maiya. And the numbers that you have mentioned about UPI transactions and the surface that is digital lending is currently growing is definitely we're not going to help only the BFSI space but NBFCs majorly. And like you have said, customers can create their account and all of things in 180 seconds. That is really a drastic transformation that we have seen over the past few years, and that is really very well going on. And we hope that it would go really well in future. So thank you once again, Mr. Maya, answering for that. So thank you so much for answering that question, sir. And moving forward, I would like to ask that the current trendy sector of companies, if we talk about in India right now, and that are fintechs. So beyond this fintech hype, I just like to know that which emerging technologies do you see as the true game changers for the NBFCs? Like how they can be applied to enhance, lending, collections, or risk assessment, or maybe once again the digital payments. So what are the changes or things that you are projecting for the upcoming future for NBFCs?
See, the technology landscape is changing quite fast, and especially the area of artificial intelligence. And we are seeing developments happening almost on a daily basis. And this is one of the technologies which had the consumer adoption much faster than the enterprise adoption. And thereby, the enterprises are now trying to catch up. And in this area, I think the banks and the NBFC should be able to now play a bigger role by using this technology to take advantage of this situation. Let me give you some examples. Especially the artificial intelligence is such a broad area which has many things inside that. So one of the important elements that banks and NBFC should be able to look at is to how to embed the AI in their own transactions, whether it is in the front office area, customer service area, mid office area, or in the area of risk management. Then comes in terms of agentic AI, where it can perform the repetitive task and a combination of tasks much more efficiently and much more cohesively. And this is where the NBFCs will also have an advantage if they start using the agentic AI in their credit appraisal processes, in their credit processing management areas, or even for that matter in finding out the defaults, the early warning systems, and making sure that you have a right information about a loan that you have dispersed on the performance of it, and as well as in terms of when it is going to go bad based on the information available, and as well as the data that the NBFCs has been using it for last several years. And this is a combination of both the fintechs trying to bring it to the industry, and as well as the NBFCs themselves can start experimenting with it by having some center of excellences and the POCs being conducted on the use cases that they identify, on the data that they use and that they have. I think it becomes more relevant and contextual when they start using their own data and their own environment and their own use cases than trying to depend on any industry-specific use cases. I think this is the one way that the banks and the NBFC should be able to look at beyond the fintech in terms of the technology like AI, how it can be leveraged going forward.
Yes, very well mentioned, Mr. Maya. And I think that is also the need of an hour right now. So, to get evolved around the technologies and integrate, or like the correct word that you have said, embed. If we can embed correctly all the, new technologies into our systems, like specifically you have mentioned about agentic AI, and, that is really solving too many problems, not just for the NBFCs, but for the banks as well. And it is also quite cost effective as well. So yeah, that is what the new technologies and opportunities are, we are projecting for the upcoming future for NBFCs and India's BFSI sector.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for putting the light on it, sir. And moving forward, Mr. Maya, I would like to ask from Finacle's point of view. So, how does Finacle's offering for NBFCs, different from the other solution providers like large public or private sector banks? So, and how does it give NBFCs as an advantage or an edge to get partnered with, or what the offerings that they get from Finacle?
Thanks for the question, Vishwas. From the solution offering perspective, we do have a common platform that can be used by anybody who's trying to provide financial services. If you look at the Infosys Finacle's platform being used, it's a variety of financial institutions and non-financial institutions are using it. Of course, as you mentioned, the majority of them are banks. And in that, you have the conventional banks, you have Islamic banks, you have neo banks, you have challenger banks, you have digital-only banks. And the same thing holds good for non-banks as well. I think, as I mentioned in the beginning of this call, the India Post, the largest core banking implementation ever done globally, is on Finacle. Similarly, we do have telecommunication organizations which are offering finance, and they are using Finacle as a platform. The insurance companies which are offering financial services, they are using Finacle as a platform. So it does not really matter what is the industry background where the organization is coming from. As long as they want to offer the financial services, Finacle is the composable platform that they should be able to use without any trouble. Similarly, the non-banking financial corporations, not just in India, as I mentioned earlier, globally, they are leveraging Finacle platform for their operations. From a product perspective, yes, of course, there are some variations compared to a conventional bank to an NBFC in terms of what product that they offer. And also, it is driven by the regulatory environment in each country. In many countries, the NBFCs are not allowed to carry out the transactions in a similar way which a commercial bank offers. So based on that, the product variants will change, the parameters will change, and as well as the configurations will change. But having said that, the entire Finacle platform will enable the non-banking financial corporations to offer the products, whether in the area of SME lending, or in the area of the car loans, the vehicle loans, the housing loans, the green financing, or the personal loans. So there's no limit. Plus, they should also be able to use the Finacle platform for their deposits offering. Plus, they should be able to use Finacle Treasury for their management of treasury operations. So there is no limitation with respect to what an NBFC cannot use from what we are offering to a financial institution like a bank. So it all left in terms of how configuration and how parameterization is being carried out to cater to the specific requirements of NBFCs.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Maya, for answering that. And I mean, this is the competitive advantage that NBFCs are getting from Finacle. And in upcoming years, that will definitely cater to a better sector and even more grown, terminologies for India's BFSI landscape, financial landscape, if we talk about. So thank you so much for answering that once again, sir. And at
the advantage for the Indian non-banking financial corporation is Finacle being present in more than 100 countries. We bring in the best practices from across the globe so that they can leverage it from a standardized product offering in India.
Exactly. Very well put up, sir. Very well put up. Thank you so much. And before parting our ways, Mr. Maya, I would like to, ask a last question that, we've been talking about sustainable growth, ESG, and each and everything that, for past 5 to 10 years. So if we talk about next upcoming 5 to 10 years, so what are the top 5 things that NBFC leaders must necessarily be doing today to future-proof their businesses in NBFC landscape of India?
See, in the Indian context, as I mentioned earlier, India is poised to become for the third largest country in terms of the GDP. And when that happens, there'll be a lot of people moving up from the cadre of being a middle class to a upper middle class. From upper middle class, they'll be moving to a higher middle class kind of a cadre, and you will have a lot of opportunities to cater to their requirements. And obviously, we have seen this happening in many countries in their developmental journey in Southeast Asia, like how it happened in China in 1980s, and similarly how it happened in Malaysia and in Singapore. So the aspirations of the citizens moves up when automatically the per capita income, because of the GDP growth, improves. And this brings in a tremendous opportunity for the NBFC to cater to the requirements. And today, if you now look at the constitution of the NBFC's business in India, around 35% is for MSME, and then comes in terms of 25%, 20% from a personal loan, vehicle loan, and the last 10% is in the ESG loans. And as we see, there'll be more and more importance, either because of regulations or because of compulsion, where the corporates and as well as the MSMEs have to concentrate and start looking at their ESG goals. And similarly, the aspiration that we mentioned about when India becomes the third largest country in terms of the GDP, to cater the aspirations of where people from a two-wheeler would like to move to a four-wheeler, and four-wheeler people would like to move into an higher-end car. And there'll be aspirations, and they'll be able to now look at moving into their own houses. Housing as a business will pick up big time. So you'll have to now look at catering to all of them in a much more faster and as well as much more efficient way, while keeping the balance sheets intact and reducing the defaults. And this requires, as I mentioned earlier, the NBFCs have to invest their money, effort, and time now on strategies that are going to be like looking at how to engage with customers better, how to make sure that you innovate better to beat the competition, how to make sure that you operate better so that your cost to income ratios are less and you are much more efficient, and how to make sure that you transform better with the technology that are coming into picture in the last few years. And all of these four things, by leveraging the better technology that are available today in the form of either composable banking and cloud technologies, AI technologies, and things like that. So the agenda is very clear, how to be part and parcel of this growth journey that India is looking at, and NBFCs are going to play a major role. Today, if you now look at the Indian NBFC businesses, they are the third largest in the world after US and UK, and we have the potential of becoming number 2 or number 1. And this is not a dream. This is quite possible to be achieved when you look at the way the consumption patterns are increasing in India, and as well as the domestic pattern in terms of the per capita income growing, and as well as the aspirations of individuals moving up. So there is a ample opportunity, and as well as the potential use of technology coming together to make this dream come true.
Very well said, and very visionary of you to provide these sorts of information on our exclusive Elets NBFC dialogue platform, sir. And that is the whole purpose of creating such preludes before the summit that we do, that people actually, our viewers even, actually get the deep rooted insight, like what's exactly happening in the financial sector and what is going to come to impact our lives. So that is really very necessary for us, and thank you so much for providing all the information and the visionary statements, sir. So thank you once again for being here today with us. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Vishwas, for the opportunity and as well as for the time
Yes.
that we spent together. Thank you.